Oh, we have one person. And we lost one person. So we're just going to give it another minute or so. Hi, Anita. I knew I could count on you. Another person. This is nice. So we'll start at 5 after 2, which is in about 2.5 minutes. So if you're watching this later, just fast forward another minute and a half, 2.5 minutes. Not very popular today. So we'll get started in 1 minute. All right, so good afternoon, everybody. I think there are 3 of you now. It's very exciting. Um, Welcome to our third session of Core Training. My name is Samantha West. I'm the Client Services Librarian here at Shortgrass. And today I wanted to talk to you briefly about using PressReader to access digital newspapers and magazines. As with our other sessions, this will be fairly brief, and we're only really going to cover using the mobile app version of this resource. There is, as always, you can access it via your library's website. But just for the sake of efficiency, we're only going to be talking about the app because I suspect that most of you are accessing it via your smartphone or your tablets these days. So, as always, I am still only working with one monitor, the joys of continuing to work from home. So if you have any questions, please just drop them in the comments and I will get back to you after I am done presenting. This should only take about 15 minutes or so. So let's see how we do. So we're going to talk about, of course, what PressReader actually is, how to get started with using it, setting up your account, how to read and how to search and browse for content, how you can save and access your favorite publications and articles that you would enjoy, and accessing help and support for this resource. So, PressReader is an online resource for accessing digital newspapers and magazines. It has a larger selection of magazines than you might find in our RB Digital resource, for instance. And the really, really nice thing about it is that publications are available as full format and full color editions. So it's really, you can basically open the digital version of the paper that you might be reading with your morning coffee. It has local, provincial, national, and international coverage, which means that you can access the Lethbridge Herald, the Medicine Hat News, but also the Globe and Mail or the National Post or papers from around the world. And it's not just English language sources, so there are 60 different languages and 100 countries is where our content comes from. So it's like you can read Elle Canada, but you could also read like Elle China if you wanted to do that. And the only thing I will note is that for people who are reading the Globe and Mail, as far as I'm aware, even at this point, you are still unable to access that unless you are logged in via the library. And that said, it can be, or using library Wi-Fi. It can be used both in library and on the go. So there is an app available, of course. That's why we're here for both iOS and Android devices. And all you need to access this content is your library barcode and PIN. It will not ask you for any other information besides those two things. And all of your information, so collections and publications, will be synced between devices. So if you start reading on your phone, but then you decide you'd like to try out the website version, you are able to do that. And you're also able to download content for offline access. So I know none of my usual example is if you're going to be getting on a plane, but no one is doing that for the foreseeable future. But if you would like to download, if you know you're not going to be in a spot or your Wi-Fi is spotty in your house and you'd like to download a magazine while you're lounging and you're lounging around at home, you're able to easily download content. So once you go to the App Store, you're just going to want to search for PressReader. Again, this is available for iOS and Android devices. Once you have it downloaded, you'll see screens that look similar, well, I guess more or less like these ones. You can skip the Get Started because that will lead you through creating an account, and that is not necessary while you are using PressReader. You have a library card, so you can just click down here where it says Sign In. And on the screen that loads next, you're going to ignore all this top stuff here, and you're going to click on where it says Libraries and Groups. And that will take you to the portal that allows you for free library access. So in the search menu that comes up, you're going to want to search for Shortgrass Library System. It'll show you where things are. It'll list a bunch of locations. Searching for Shortgrass is always easiest. Once you've found us, just tap on this. You'll get this screen over here, and all it's going to ask you for is your library card number, so your barcode number and your PIN. If you don't know your PIN, as always, get in touch with your local library. They'll be able to look it up for you. If you want to take a stab at guessing before you get in touch with your local library, generally it will often be the last 4 digits of the phone number you supplied when you signed up for your library card, or it will be might be your birth year. A lot of people use that one. At that point, all you have to do is tap Sign In. So once you're in, it looks like this. It'll tell you your complimentary access, your library access. You have however much time is available. The screen will always pop up every time you open the app. And then underneath all that, it looks like, once you X out of that right there, underneath it all, it looks like this. So again, you do have to log in every now and again, but it is always free to access this content. So we'll go through the various options on the home screen. There are a lot of them. So up here is our search bar. So if you want to find a particular publication or you're looking for information about a particular topic, you can start up here. This will allow you to browse content in a particular category. So if you only want to, I think the categories count as things like magazines about your pets, or fashion magazines. It'll show you that kind of content, but you're also able to show content from particular countries or in particular languages. As you go navigate down the screen, so PressReader basically divides all of its content up into a series of categories that you can flip through. So you would just just flip through it like you would yeah, so just basically scroll left to right depending on what you want to see. Sorry, I did not sleep very well last night. Down here, it also shows you more options for content that you can take a look at. So it'll show you, 4,100 magazines, 3,200 newspapers. So you can pull up content like that. But as you scroll down this list, it shows you things. So my publications are things that publications that you've previously saved, and it will show you just various categories. So that has like magazines from Canada or newspaper, international newspapers, depending on what it thinks you'll like to see. So again, PressReader, yeah, we talked about that. So this main menu down here is basically always accessible as you're navigating through the app. So we'll talk about what these little things, these little subsections are. So the For You section shows stories that the app thinks you will be interested in. Browse, which is the window we're actually looking at right now, lets you browse available collections if you're not looking for anything in particular. Downloaded lets you see items that you've or issues that you've previously downloaded. Bookmarks will let you see content that you've bookmarked, and we're going to talk about bookmarking in just a second. And this More tab over here, so the 3 ellipses, lets you change your settings. And those settings, you can either change your general settings or your reading settings. So under general, that's mostly where you would go if you want to adjust your download settings so you're not downloading over data. And that's actually something I wanted to point out. Downloading big image files like this can actually burn through a lot of your data. So be careful with that. You're also able to go in there and choose how many issues you would like PressReader to save. So if you're running out of limited space, if you have limited space, or you just don't want that much clutter, which I totally understand, PressReader, you can go in and change those settings. And save content of I think it'll save up to 90 days worth, or you can keep it forever. And the default, of course, is no limit. And then there's also this reading section, which allows you to change some general reading session preferences. So the smart zoom thing lets you zoom in. If you double tap with your 2 fingers to zoom in on the beginning of an article, you can enable or disable full screen. So if you don't want to look at something have a full screen experience. Pre-rendering pages, if you're on a slow Wi-Fi connection or you don't want to use a ton of data, this is a good one to turn off because it doesn't, there might be a little bit of slight bit of a lag, but it also lets you see things in higher resolution immediately off the hop. Showing highlights in full screen. So it lets you view stories in text view. The other useful thing you want to see is this text-to-speech one. So that lets you decide whether or not you'd like to use the inbuilt text-to-speech. I'm using an iPhone, so it goes to iOS. But if your device's text-to-speech option, if you have that enabled, you can have the app read to you. And you can change your speech rate too. So if you want something to be read slower or faster, depending on your preferences. So with all that in mind, let's actually get to looking at content. So as you're browsing or searching, when you see a title you want to read, just tap on the cover of it or its image to bring up more information. So that screen looks like this. We'll go through the various parts. So you can tap, of course, down here on read to read it. And then you can actually, if you keep scrolling down on this page, it will show you any supplements that have been included with the magazine in the last few issues. So it'll show you, like, I just used Canadian Living as my example, but it'll show you things like holiday baking, the little supplements that gives you like recipes and stuff. And you can also continue to scroll down to latest issues. I should mention that PressReader does not keep back issues available indefinitely in its browse function. You do have to save an issue if you want to be able to continue to access it. But other than that, it only shows about 90 days worth of back issues, which for a monthly magazine is 3 issues. For a daily newspaper, might be up to 90 days if that paper is published daily. And down here you can have it set, so auto download, if this is a title you know you'll be returning to, you can have it download to you. And if you'd like to include all the supplements, you can have that set as well. Actually, I don't think we have that option enabled. Up here is where you can have the page read to you by tapping on the little microphone or the speaker icon. And if you tap this heart, which is not usually green, but if you tap it and turn it green, that is the title that you can save to your favorite publications, which will make it a lot easier to return to in the future. So when you actually open an item, the screens are going to look more or less like this. So it always pops up at first with this bottom navigation and /preview menu. That'll disappear after just a second, but if you tap on the screen, you'll bring it back up again. And this is what you'll use if you want to scroll backwards and forwards through the entire text and just see a page without, basically a small version of that page if you want to take a look at it before you open it up in full. There's also a table of contents that's accessible right up here in the top right corner. And that pulls up this page that looks more or less like this. And it'll show you, so if you want to skip right to the fashion section or to the health section, you'll be able to just scroll through this list and find article titles or section titles that are interesting to you or relevant to you. So for a more comfortable, so down here too, you can like this page, more text to speech. For a more comfortable reading experience, because I know that especially when you're looking at a cluttered newspaper page or magazine page like this one, it can be kind of awkward to read, especially on a smaller screen. It does not always linear. But what we're going to want to do for the easiest reading experience is go down to this top right corner, go down to this bottom right corner and tap on this paragraph icon to display the article's text. And that will pop up more or less like this. You see it's a much more comfortable reading experience. And so from down here, it shows you yet another menu. And there's some options available to you. If you need to change the size of the text, you can just go in and tap on these two little A's here, so that'll bring it up for you to make it larger or smaller depending on your preference. But you're also able to share it with this little icon here in the bottom left corner. You can bookmark it, so if you're something that you want to return to later, it's kind of like cutting it out of the paper itself, or cutting it out of the magazine itself. You know, people used to make clippings. You can annotate it or leave a comment with this button here. And this menu right here, so this menu right here is where if you just tap on these 3 dots, that'll bring up a few more options for interacting with it. So that includes things like if you want to have it read to you, if you'd like to print it, or if you'd like to have it translated into another language, which is actually really, really cool. Although I cannot verify how accurate it is, I should point that out. Just tap on the screen right here and the list of options will appear. So if it's something that you know you'd like to return to, you're able to bookmark collections. So here's my test collection here. So again, yeah, it's the digital equivalent of cutting it out of a newspaper, and you're able to keep it forever. Anything that you access can be anything you bookmark can be accessed by tapping this bookmarks menu down here, and the page comes up like this. So you'll see that it doesn't show you full editions of the magazine or the newspaper. It just shows you that particular article that you've saved. If you want to read it, you would just tap on that and bring up the full edition. The other useful thing about bookmarks is that if you're a hardcore user and you like to save a lot of things, maybe you're following information about a particular topic, or there's a particular writer whose work that you like to read, or you're keeping a recipe collection. I know there's a lot of craft magazines on here too, so if you like to keep there's all kinds of things. So if you want to keep patterns, you can keep patterns, etc. The possibilities are endless. But if you're reading an article and you tap on the bookmark button at the bottom of that, you'll see this menu that pops up, and it has a couple of options for you. So I have one of the categories it comes up with is the automatic category it comes up with is read later. So if you don't want to read that article now, but you'd like to read it later, you can do that. But you can also create a new collection. So you'll see mine is one I created is just called Test Collection. So you just tap on Create New Collection. It'll walk you through the steps of creating that collection, and you can just save the article there. And performing a search. So PressReader does allow you to search for information in a variety of ways. So that includes things like particular subjects, publications, countries of origin for publication, among other things. And that menu can be accessed at the top of either the For You page that we saw at first, so the articles that are publications and things you'll like, or the Browse page of this app. And you can just basically start typing for the topic or the publication. When you find what you're looking for, so it'll show up here. So what I actually recommend doing is over here where it's a topic that you'd like to follow. So COVID-19, we're all following COVID-19 right now. If you like it, it'll make it easier to come back to that topic either. I don't know that anyone likes COVID though. But if again too, it'll show you if you want to be able to return to the French edition of Cosmo, you can like that, and that title will always be a lot easier for you to find. So that's useful. That's actually all I have. The help section is gotten progressively more difficult to find in this app, and I actually couldn't find it when I was going through and prepping, editing this presentation for the newest version. So if you have any questions about using this app, get in touch with library staff. Feel free to contact Shortgrass through this page, and we will do our best to help you out with it. I know this is kind of a lot of information very, very quickly, but it is a really, really great tool, and it's like the amount of material that you have access to using this is truly phenomenal. So hopefully you find it useful. I'm going to go back to my Facebook Live window now, and hopefully if there are any questions, I'll be able to answer them for you. I'll leave this up for another couple minutes, and this video will be available to anyone who wants to look at it shortly. So thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. We'll see you again soon for the next session.